To today's webinar, SCORE webinar from Fairfield County. Today our topic is using mega retailers like Amazon and eBay to help you drive your business. I'm Steve Smith, and I'm the webinar coordinator here at SCORE Fairfield County, also a business mentor here at SCORE, and I'll be your host. And today your speaker is the great Cliff Ennico. And I'll tell you more about Cliff in just a minute, but first, again, a little bit about SCORE. Some of you have heard this before, and I apologize. You can probably give this bit of the thing as well as I can. I see some of the names in the participants list, and you've been with us before. So SCORE is a national organization started in the mid-'60s to support the growth and beginning businesses of small businesses specifically throughout the United States. It's a part of the United States government Small Business Administration and has over 300 offices throughout the United States and over 10,000 volunteers. Here in Fairfield County, which is roughly speaking Greenwich to Bridgeport, mainly along the Sound, we are 130 volunteers with varying degrees of expertise and in things of different processes like supply chain, different kinds of subjects like finance and sales and marketing, and various degrees of industry expertise as well. Mine, for example, is on process manufacturing. We offer primarily Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's SCORE Fairfield County webinar using mega retailers to help you meet your business objectives. I'm Steve Smith, the webinar coordinator here at SCORE Fairfield County and a business mentor for our SCORE office. Today our presenter will be Cliff Ennico, and I'll tell you more about Cliff in just a minute. But first, a little bit about SCORE. SCORE is a part of the United States government Small Business Administration and has over 320 offices around the United States. We were started in the mid-'60s specifically to help small businesses get started and flourish. In Fairfield County, we are located in Norwalk and have a territory that basically runs between Bridgeport and Greenwich along the Sound somewhat. We have 130 volunteers with varying degrees of industry expertise, process expertise, subject matter expertise, and we offer really three primary broad-based values into the marketplace, into your environment. One is workshops and webinars, which is exactly what you're doing today. Our workshop program is conducted across Fairfield County, usually in libraries as our venue. We do 125 to 130 of these workshops a year. You can find a list of the upcoming workshops, of course, on our website, which is fairfieldcounty.score.org. A part of the workshops and webinars are part of our education program. I should have mentioned that a minute ago, but the webinar program specifically, which is exactly what you're doing right now, is a program we started a couple of years ago to try to give some flexibility to the scheduling of these kind of educational events. We do them always between 12 and noon every other Tuesday, so that would be approximately 24, 25 times a year. The subject matter between the workshops and webinars is similar. The formats, obviously, and the venues, obviously, are quite different. I think probably our flagship offering in the marketplace is our one-on-one counseling that we do at our offices at 111 East Avenue in Norwalk. Those counseling sessions are done, as I said, one-on-one, or sometimes we'll have two counselors with a counselee, sometimes 2 to 2, whatever. But the point is, it's to really get at your core business issue into some detail and making sure that we've matched your needs and your requests up with a counselor who's got the information needed to help you get along. The other thing, and I just can't overemphasize this enough, is our website in general. Again, fairfieldcounty.score.org, where you'll find all kinds of digital resources and tools and answers to frequently asked questions by small businesses, as well as access to our past 15 to 18 months of webinars. They're all stored there, actually on YouTube, but they're all available on there through through a click button called On-Demand Webinars. So moving along here, our next webinar is July 9th, and the subject is the 7 biggest mistakes made by small businesses. Our speaker will be Belinda Wasser, and I think you actually got an email reminder about this email several hours ago. I know I did. You'll also be receiving one 3 days before and the morning of. So some of you have been on these webinars before, and you'll know we're quite keen on the time, even though we did start a minute or two late. Today we're going to end this webinar at 1 o'clock. It is being recorded. I'll say that one more time. It is being recorded and will be available sometime by the end of the day or early tomorrow through our website, through on-demand webinars, and you'll see it pop up and you can access it. You'll see all the slides as well. On these slides that Cliff is going to show, you're going to see some details that you might want to take some notes on. He's going to mention this later in his comments, but rather than sit there and try to laboriously take all the notes and everything, he has graciously agreed to forward this slide deck to those of you that requested specifically to him at his email address, and you know it, what it is. So we've also, as usual, set aside time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. Just log your questions down in the chat window in the lower left. I'll try to monitor those and feed them to Cliff towards the end of the hour, probably around the last 10 minutes. Sometimes I know, because he's done this before, he's kind of savvy on this, he might jump in, see one, and answer it on the fly. At the conclusion of the webinar, you're going to be receiving an email asking you to evaluate the webinar. Please do that. I really appreciate it, and we do use them. Everybody says that, but we actually do. Now on to Cliff. Cliff is a big friend of SCORE's, has been helping us out with our education program for years. He's a nationally recognized small business legal and tax expert. That sounds a lot more boring than he is. He's best known as the former host of Money Hunt, a show on PBS that was really kind of one of the first things on television you'd ever see where entrepreneurs actually could come and defend their business plans before some of America's toughest panel of experts. I believe you will find that similar show today on television every night. God knows what the budget for that is. Anyway, an attorney and a small business consultant. He's located in Fairfield County, Fairfield, Connecticut, actually, in Fairfield County. And he's helped launch over 15,000 businesses in his career. He's the author of many books. I think we've actually lost count, but the last time we counted it was 16, including, and they're very relevant to this presentation, by the way, the eBay Sellers Business Answer Book and the eBay Sellers Tax and Legal Answer Book. So I'm going to turn it over to Cliff, and Cliff will take it off for about 40 minutes or so, and then we'll come back to you for Q's and A's. So, Cliff, it's over to you, man.
Okay, Steve, thank you very much. First of all, thanks to all of you for taking some time out on a yucky Tuesday. At least it's pouring rain here in Fairfield, Connecticut. You're spending an hour of your life.
If it's just one person, I don't know what to tell them.
So I got to give you guys a lot of credit here. You guys have just a lot of credibility and faith in my ability to do this. One thing we're going to do before we begin, as Steve mentioned this during the introduction, some of you are veterans of my programs, and you know that normally I don't like giving out my slides. I spend a lot of time on these. I use these in different venues, and there's always somebody out there who wants to take them and put them up on their website or something and give them away for nothing, which I don't like. So I don't like that. But this is different. This program is going to be very, very different. A lot of the slides here are going to be resource rich. I'm going to give you names and contact information for people who can help you with very specific issues on eBay and Amazon, and I want you to have that information without getting writer's cramp, writing at lightning speed. So here's what I want all of you to do on this slide. Make a note of my email address. It is crenico@gmail.com, crenico@gmail.com. Make a note of this. During the program or after the program, if you send me an email at this address, just simply say, want the slides, from so-and-so, want the slides. And I will respond to that, and I will attach a copy of this presentation to that email, so you will have the slides. Do not put your email address in the chat room expecting me to respond. The minute this program is over, I lose all that information, and I don't have the time to write anything. So make a note of my email address. Send me an email either during or shortly after this program, and just say, want today's slides, and I will respond to that as soon as I get back to the office. Okay, couple of disclaimers, the usual disclaimers here. We do this in all of our programs. While I've been giving SCORE programs since I was 3 years old, I'm only kidding about that, but it seems that way sometimes. I've actually been doing SCORE presentations now for almost 40 years, but I am not an official part of the SCORE organization. Anything that I say in this program is strictly me. So if I say something and you think it's a good idea and you do it and it doesn't work out and you end up, filing bankruptcy and your spouse divorces you, your kids don't talk to you, your dog pees on your leg, and you end up in a diaper box under the Brooklyn Bridge, you can't really sue anybody, okay? Second thing, and this is really the more important one, there's a very big difference between giving out legal and tax information and giving out legal and tax advice. It's one thing to say, this is what the law is all about. It's another thing to say, now, Joe, here's what you should do, and Mary, here's why you should do something different. I don't know any of you well enough to give advice, so please don't rely on anything that I say as one-on-one advice. There is one other disclaimer, which is not on your slide here, and it's a rather important one. Well, I have been speaking in this area now for over 20 years. Since there has been an eBay and an Amazon, I have been speaking on this topic. I myself am not a professional eBay or Amazon seller. There are people out there that know a lot more than I do about the specifics of how you do X, Y, and Z on eBay, how you do X, Y, and Z on Etsy. And part of the goal of this program is to introduce you to those people so that you can develop relationships with them. That's why I'm anxious that you actually get the slides for this program. So there are some questions that I won't be able to answer, and I apologize for that. But by the end of this program, you should have the name of at least one person you can call, and he'll be very happy to talk to you in a very cost-effective way to give you the information you need. So let's get started. Now, this is what an online business looks like. Okay, now some of you are looking at this and you're saying, geez, that looks familiar, but it doesn't look like a business to me. Well, obviously, what is this? This is an octopus, or an octopus, a squid. For those of you of Italian-American heritage, squingili, calamari, we eat these things, okay, so just get used to that. But this is what an online business should look like. Take a look at this diagram. If you look at it closely, the octopus has three parts to it. First part is the head. This is where all of the digestive organs and really where everything is in the octopus. That's part one. Part two, you've got these 8 tentacles that are, waving around in the water. And then you have the sucker things that are attached. I don't know the exact name of them, okay? All I know is what I see on Nature Channel, okay, on TV. But you got these sucker things here, and you see the way the octopus works. These tentacles float around in the water, and when prey comes by, the tentacles grab it. Then the sucker things feed the prey back to the head, which is where all the digestion and stuff goes on. And that's exactly what your online empire should look like. There are 5 steps to building an online octopus. Step 1, which is something we're not going to talk about today, which is building a killer website. Now, I know some of you are groaning. You're saying, hey, Cliff, this is 2019. It's all about smartphones and social media. Why are you talking about websites? That is so 1994. Well, the answer is you still need a website. Websites are very, very important for branding, and people expect you to have them. If I meet you at a networking event and you're JoeBlow.com, you're Joe Blow, I expect you to be JoeBlow.com or some variation of that, JoeBlowAntiques.com or something like that. If I don't see that, it takes away a little bit from your credibility. I know a lot of people are very fond now of selling stuff on social media, and you can do that now, but you still need to have a website. And more importantly than that, the second reason is most important. In all the Internet, there is only one place, and only one, where you can sell stuff and keep 100% of the profits that you make. You can certainly sell stuff on eBay, Amazon, and Etsy, and all these other platforms, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but you're going to pay a huge price for doing so. The only place on the entire web where you can sell stuff and keep 100% of what you make is the stuff you sell on your own website. This is the head of the octopus. This is where all your best stuff should be, your highest margin merchandise. And the goal of everything else that you do is to drive the traffic to the head, to the website, because that's where your best stuff is, and that's where you're going to make the most money. Anything that you do on eBay, Amazon, and Etsy, the ultimate goal should be to drive business to your small business website, because that's where you're really going to get the best margins. Okay, so now you've got your head. Step 2 is now the tentacles, the things that float around in the water and grab the prey. These are your outposts on other e-commerce websites, eBay, Amazon, and Etsy. This is what we're going to be talking about primarily today. Step number 3, market your web presence online through search engine optimization, pay-per-click, web marketing. We used to call it pay-per-click, PPC, social media. This is all designed to get the prey close enough to your tentacles that they can get grabbed. Step number 4, market your web presence offline. One of the dirtiest little secrets of web marketing, even in 2019, is that many people hear about websites and e-commerce companies through offline media. How many times have you checked out a website because you saw an article in a magazine on an airline or something like that? People still are finding things online using offline media. Randy Spina is a very good friend of mine. She's a very good friend of Score. She is based in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and she has a lot of resources on her website and off for people who are looking to develop their offline media presence in a way that will drive traffic to online media. That's the first of many names you're going to hear today of people who can help you. Then last but not least, measure your performance. Subscribe to at least one analytics software program. Google Analytics is the one that most people use, but a lot of people don't know. eBay has its own analytics program, which is specific to the eBay site. There's also an outfit called Sales Channel Reports that will show you what your sales are doing on multiple platforms if you're selling on eBay, Amazon, and Etsy. Again, I told you this is going to be a referral program. I could easily do 10 slides on each one of the topics we're going to be talking about today, but we can't do that in an hour, and especially now that it's only 45 minutes. So I have to really make sure that you're coming away with the people and the contacts that will help you make your business happen. So when you're selling on MegaRetail, what are your goals? This is the first question you have to ask yourself. And there's no right answer. There are a lot of people out there who want to sell on eBay and Amazon as a hobby, as a part-time thing. All they really want to do, they have a business of their own, and they only want to make an extra $20,000 to $30,000 a year. A lot of people in rural America, I have learned, speaking to these communities and talking to eBay and Amazon sellers around the country, a lot of people in rural America spend their off season selling stuff on eBay and Amazon. It's a very big income generator for farmers and people in rural America. And really, I mean, it's fascinating to meet some of these people. There are people in rural Idaho, 4 hours from the nearest mall, who are making six figures or more a year selling stuff on eBay. It's incredible, the people that are out there doing this. If this is what you want to do, it's not hard at all. Little time, little effort, you probably can figure out how to make $20,000, $30,000 net selling stuff on eBay. Okay, next, let's say you have a brick-and-mortar business and you want an e-commerce channel. You want to sell on Amazon, but you don't want to give up your brick-and-mortar store. A lot of small manufacturers, regional manufacturers who only sell their products locally, are finding that eBay and Amazon are incredible distribution channels to help them reach national and international markets. And there are people out there that will help you do this, by the way, and I'll introduce you to some of them before the program is over. This is moderately difficult. It's a little challenging, but with a little time and effort and working with a consultant, you can figure out how to add eBay or Amazon as a marketing channel to whatever it is you're doing in the physical brick-and-mortar world. Now, let's say you want to make a living, though. You want to make $100,000 or more a year. This is tricky, I will tell you. Selling online is very time intensive. It's not capital intensive. You're not going to spend a lot of money selling online, but it's very demanding of your time. If you want to make $100,000 a year, you're going to have to list thousands and thousands of products on each of these sites, and that takes time. It takes time to set up the listing pages, monitoring them, answering the client emails. Selling on eBay especially can be a very time-consuming activity, and it may be tricky to get to that $100,000 level, although I'll give you a couple of tips for doing it. Last but not least, you want to build an empire. Very difficult to do unless it's your own stuff. If you have proprietary merchandise, let's say you're in rural Vermont or something and you have a brand of honey that is absolutely killer, or I actually have a client here in northern Connecticut who sells mead, that stuff that they used to drink in the Middle Ages. You see it all the time at Renaissance fairs, but you don't see it anywhere else. It's the stuff that Beowulf drank, okay? This is what he does, and he has been able to create an international market for this by selling on eBay and Amazon. It's a very specialized product. This is the kind of stuff that people look for when they sell when they shop on eBay and Amazon. So, what are the MegaRetail platforms? I divide them into three categories. There are the majors. eBay, of course, which we've all heard of. Amazon, a lot of people don't know, but Amazon has two specific programs for sellers. They're called FBA and FBM. The FBA stands for Fulfillment by Amazon. The second one is Fulfillment by Merchant, and they're very, very different. One of the biggest decisions you have to make when you start selling on Amazon is which of these programs are you going to join. Etsy.com, this is a site that's primarily for handicrafted items, arts, what we used to call arts and crafts type stuff. There's Shopify.com, which is becoming a major now. 5 years ago it wasn't, but it's giving the majors a run for their money. And don't laugh. A lot of people have written off Yahoo as dead. I think that that's a mistake. Yahoo Small Business is still a very active site, especially for what I will call female-friendly merchandise, because their shoppers tend to skew heavily female, much more so than the other majors. So if you're selling handbags and other female-friendly accessories and that kind of stuff, women's clothing and that kind of stuff, you definitely should consider setting up a Yahoo store. Even in 2019, it still has relevance. There are a number of smaller MegaRetail sites that are growing in popularity. Bonanza is one. Rakuten, which was formerly known as Best Buy. Best Buy no longer has its own MegaRetail site. They got involved with a Japanese company, and that's why it's called Rakuten. There's webstore.com, which more and more of my clients are talking about now. It's a relatively new website. It started about 2 years ago. but it's starting to give Amazon a run for its money in certain categories. So don't overlook the minors. You may find better customers there. It may be easier to get your word out there than it is on Amazon. As we all know, one of the hardest things in selling on eBay and Amazon now is that they've got so many tens of millions of sellers, it's hard to stand out. On a webstore.com, at least now, it's a little easier to stand out. Last but not least are what we call microsites. These are very small sites. In some cases, they may only have a couple of hundred of registered users, but they are 100% focused on your customer base, especially for those of you who are selling antiques and collectibles. If you search hard enough on the web, you will find that there is at least one microsite for the stuff that you are looking for sale. And these are primarily collectors' websites. So, for example, mechanicalbanks.org is the website of the Mechanical Bank Collectors Society of North America. These are people who collect antique mechanical banks that were made in the United States from the 1880s to 1920s. So if you have a mechanical bank, let's say you bought an estate lot or something like that and you have a mechanical bank, well, you can certainly list it on eBay. At any given time, there's hundreds of them for sale on eBay. But if you by spending $50 for a membership on mechanicalbanks.org, you get to list to 35,000 people, all of whom are serious mechanical bank collectors. So the idea behind a microsite, smaller community, but a very focused community on what it is you're looking to sell. And especially for antiques and collectibles, very effective way to sell stuff. Okay, so now let's talk about getting started. Here are the 5 big questions. What will I sell? Where will it come from? Which MegaRetail platform should I choose? How do I get started? And what are the rules? So let's start going through all 5 of these questions. Question number 1, what will I sell online? Well, the short answer to that is sell what sells. Sell what sells. What you're looking for, and this is true, by the way, when you're selling offline too, you're looking for stuff for which there are lots of customers, relatively little competition, and high gross margins. Those are the 3 rules. Show me a product that fits all 3 of those categories. That is something you should be selling. Where are the underserved niches? The biggest problem with selling on eBay and Amazon right now is that there are just so many sellers out there. If you're looking to sell costume jewelry on eBay right now, I guarantee you there are over 1 million sellers that are selling costume jewelry in one form or another. Very hard to stand out if that's all you're doing is selling stuff that you find at flea markets. It helps if you have a niche. Silver jewelry with a batik Indonesian theme might be a niche where you might be able to sell effectively if you can get the word out to your marketplace. The nichier you are, the easier it is to sell on eBay and Amazon because the competition is cut down and it's easier to find your stuff on search engines. Sell what you know, not necessarily what you love. One of the most successful eBay sellers that I work with is a fellow out in Michigan who sells auto parts for antique cars, specifically Hondas and Toyotas from the 80s and 90s. A lot of us still drive these cars, believe it or not. I mean, I have 2 Toyotas. One is 1995, 1996. And whenever I need a water pump for one of these cars, believe it or not, a lot of the dealers and a lot of the manufacturers no longer carry them. So where do I go? I go to eBay Motors, and there are a ton of sellers who make very good money selling auto parts for older cars on eBay Motors. And I have a client who's in this business, and he says, look, Cliff, I am not passionate about timing belts. I don't think anybody in the world can be passionate about timing belts and air filters and stuff like that. But if you've got a 96 Toyota and your 96 Toyota needs a lock for the left rear door, which mine just did recently, all I have to do is contact this guy and he'll have it shipped to me within 24 hours. My mechanic now has gotten to the point where he no longer even orders the parts. He just gives me the part number because he knows I'm going to buy it on eBay or Amazon. And this is what's happening now. So, sell what you know, not necessarily what you love. If you have knowledge about your merchandise, you will find buyers. If you sell only flea market stuff, you will get only flea market prices. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people get started on eBay because they find stuff on flea markets or grandma's attic, whatever, and they make a few bucks selling that. That's why I say if all you're looking for is to make $20,000, $30,000 a year, it's relatively easy to do. But you can't make a living like that. You got to get stuff that's higher margin. If all you're selling is stuff for $1, well, then that's all you're going to get. You're going to get a flea market price on eBay, the same as you would with a local, your local church sale or something like that. Is the platform right for the type of merchandise? We are learning that certain types of stuff sells better on certain platforms. eBay is the place to go for antiques, collectibles, used, secondhand stuff, basically anything that still sells using an auction method of pricing. eBay is the place to go. eBay is the online auction king, and it still is, even after 25 years. It still is. Amazon, other sites have never been able to copy eBay's ability to conduct online auctions. So if you've got merchandise that's unique, one of a kind, people are going to bid for it, eBay is the place to go. Amazon, books, media, housewares, just about anything you can buy on Amazon, but new merchandise is the focus here. Stuff that is new in the original packaging, still in the stores. Etsy, primarily for handicrafts, arts and crafts items, handmade goods, and that kind of stuff. Consider a contrarian approach. A lot of successful sellers I work with go against the grain. They sell CDs on eBay. A lot of people don't know, but some of the best deals for CDs and even new music is available on eBay. People buy the CD, they record it onto their iPod or whatever it is, and then they turn around and they sell the CD on eBay. You can get CDs now that are still in the stores or available on Amazon for $3 or $4 on eBay, which a lot of people don't know. Consider a contrarian approach. Again, you want to be where there's as little competition as possible. Find out what sells best on each platform, and keep in mind that there are some things you legally can't sell online. This link is to eBay's restricted item page. It's probably the best thing I've ever found online. It is literally hundreds of pages of information, alphabetical, about things that you cannot sell on eBay. And sometimes the rules are really silly and very precise. So, for example, while you can sell taxidermy products, stuffed animals, no, not teddy bears, but like actual stuffed animals, you can sell taxidermy items online, but you cannot sell bear rugs online. And the reason is because it's the state bear. The bear is the state animal of California, and California prohibits the sale of bear rugs. If something is illegal to sell anywhere in the country, it's illegal to sell on eBay or Amazon, and this is a site that will help you figure out what that stuff is. Okay, so that's what you sell. Secondly, where will it come from? Okay, well, obviously you start with your own inventory, also known as stuff from mom's attic. People become hooked on selling on eBay when, an elderly relative dies. They have to clean out the house, and they throw out all the stuff that's obviously garbage, and they keep all the stuff that's obviously heirlooms, like, photo albums and stuff like that. But there's this big category of stuff in between, which is too good to give away, but not good enough to keep. And that's when people start thinking, eBay, I can sell this stuff on eBay. And somebody actually spends $10 for your mother's old monogrammed handkerchief. This is how people get hooked on eBay. And all of a sudden they say, wow, there's actually somebody in Thailand who's interested in, this old silverware. It gets to be like a rush sometimes. The DHSM, the Directory of Psychological Disorders, that the psychiatrists use when they diagnose their patients, actually recognizes eBay addiction as an actual mental disorder. Interestingly enough, people will get hooks on things.
Yeah, Cliff, I got a question before you go off this topic that you might want to just take a breather here and answer. The question is, in terms of what can you sell in the U.S. and what can't you sell? What about selling vitamins or herbal teas that are made in the United States? Anything on that?
Hi there. Okay, there are a whole set of rules about what they call nutraceuticals, which are vitamins and other supplements. If you go to the restricted items page on eBay that I just listed, you have a whole section on vitamins and nutraceuticals and what can be sold and what can. Herbal teas are a little bit different. Obviously, if you're reselling something like Bigelow teas or something like that, you got a bunch of them somewhere at a liquidator, and you're trying to sell them, that usually is okay, but we'll talk about that in a minute. things, herbal teas that you make yourself, you're putting them in the stream of commerce. So be very careful. This is becoming a big issue now with CBD, with cannabis and cannabidiol. A lot of people are doing, products that have CBD in them, and those are not always legal everywhere. So take a look at the restricted item page on eBay. It's very, very clear, and then believe me, they keep this updated very well. It is very current. So let's move on to estate tags, sales, tags and garage sales, liquidators, thrift shops. These are, by the way, dumpster diving is technically illegal in most states. Be careful about this. I sometimes will put things out for my garbage on Sunday afternoon because our garbage pickup date is Monday, and when I look out an hour later, everything is gone. Even though the garbage doesn't pick up that day. I mean, it's okay. I don't care. I'm throwing it away. But just keep in mind that dumpster diving may be illegal in your area. And seriously, we have people who drive around our community actually on garbage day looking for things in people's blue bins. It's incredible. And they usually drive like Lexuses and cars like that, which makes me wonder what I'm doing wrong with my living. Here's a wonderful site. It's a Facebook group called Thrifting with the Boys. This is my good friend Jason Smith from Las Vegas. He and his colleagues basically are like American pickers. They go around to thrift shops around the country, and they talk about what sells, what doesn't, what T-shirts should you be looking for in thrift shops. It's actually kind of a fun show, and he's kind of a fun guy. He's about 7 feet tall. He's bald as an egg, but he has a big bushy beard like a Civil War general. He's a fun guy to look at. Retail arbitrage. This is becoming a thing. One of the amazing things we've learned about the internet is that people can actually make more money. When I was in college, I took a course in economics, and it was gospel back then that the retail price is the highest price that anyone will pay for any merchandise. Well, when eBay and Amazon launched, we found out that wasn't so. There are a lot of people out there who are willing to pay a premium over retail price for things that they cannot find locally. So, I mean, if you've ever been to a bookstore or you've ever been to a library book sale where you see people walking around with cell phones and they're scanning the barcodes on stuff, this is who these people are. They're getting stuff at a discount and they're selling it more on eBay and Amazon. I have a relative who actually worked her way through college doing this. She lives in a place where there's a lot of outlet malls. So she would go to the outlet malls and she would look for the sale stuff, the stuff that was 80 to 90% off. She cleaned them out. She bought out the whole store and then went online and started selling it for 20 to 30% off of retail, and she made her money on the difference. This is called retail arbitrage. And there are whole books that have been written about this. But here's a big no-no. A lot of people have discovered recently that you can actually arbitrage between Amazon and eBay. Sometimes things sell for more on one platform. So what they do is they take out a listing on eBay for something that they don't own, expecting that if someone buys, they can go on Amazon, get it cheaper, and make their money on the difference. That is a big no-no. If they find out that you are doing that, they will definitely kick you off. I don't know about Amazon, but they will definitely, if eBay finds out, they will definitely kick you off the site for doing that. Drop shipping and consignment sales. This is selling other people's stuff. There are a lot of people who make money drop shipping for other companies. They put the listing up, and when somebody buys, they contact the manufacturer, and the manufacturer ships the goods to the person. It's a wonderful way to sell online. You don't have to maintain inventory. You don't have to worry about your basement getting clogged up with stuff that doesn't sell. Always remember, though, that if you do sell, your client, the manufacturer for whom you are selling, must always have sufficient inventory to fulfill orders. Make sure in your contract with the manufacturer, they always say that they will maintain sufficient inventory. And if they're running low, make sure they notify you. You don't want to be in a position of selling something on eBay that you cannot deliver. Then last but not least, whenever you do consignment sales, make sure you take possession of the merchandise. A lot of people, they're downsizing, they're selling stuff out of their house. They tell you, oh, it's okay, you can sell that piano, I'm good with that. And then when you sell it and somebody's paying $5,000 for it, they say, oh, you know what, my cousin just told me her daughter's taking piano lessons. I've decided I don't want to sell it now. You don't want to be caught in the middle like that. a very big and useful way of selling things online is there are a lot of local manufacturers that have local regional products, and they're having trouble getting to national and international markets. You can be a solution for them. You can become a consultant to them and help them build their eBay and their Amazon presence. I have a lot of clients that do this kind of work. They don't sell anything of their own. They work for local manufacturers. They help the manufacturers get up to speed on eBay and Amazon, and they get a commission on each sale that happens online. Private labeling, white labeling, this is an advanced topic. There are a lot of people who find generic merchandise, and what they do is they put their label on it and they sell it on eBay and Amazon. Keep in mind that whenever you're doing private labeling or white labeling, you are now considered to be the manufacturer of the goods for legal services, so be sure you get products liability insurance. Last but not least, buying in bulk from overseas. I'm sure a lot of you have questions about buying overseas. Rather than answer them, here are 3 wonderful resources. One's the Alibaba page. Another is a company in Florida called Global Sources. This is all they do. And then one of my favorite people, and I'm going to mention him at least twice here, is a guy named Skip McGrath. This is a leading eBay and Amazon seller. He's out of Seattle, Washington. He was one of the very earliest eBay power sellers who was selling more than $100,000 a month. He has a weekly blog that is absolutely amazing on where you can source stuff when you're selling on eBay and Amazon. So I want you to subscribe to his blog. This is the link to his site. I need to keep moving here. This is why I want you to send me an email. Reminder to send me an email, and I will send you a copy of these slides. You don't have to go crazy writing all this stuff down. Question number 3, which platform shall I choose? Well, we've already covered this. eBay is easy to get started, so for newbies, I always tell people start on eBay, and when you feel comfortable with that, then migrate to Amazon. You get very strong SEO support. It's much more seller-friendly than Amazon. The big difference between eBay and Amazon, Amazon competes with you. eBay does not. If you start selling stuff on Amazon and you start getting traction, you start getting a market, the first thing you're going to notice, Amazon is going to start listing its own merchandise in competition with you. eBay does not do this. eBay does not have merchandise of its own to sell. It makes 100% of its income off of third-party sellers like you. Amazon only makes 40% of its income from third-party sellers. 60% of its income comes from stuff that it sells. So you've got to be mindful of this. The biggest complaint I hear from my Amazon clients, they start out selling stuff on Amazon and start selling. Next thing they know, Amazon is selling and they're undercutting you, and they even tell the customers that, hey, you can get it cheaper on Amazon over here. Don't buy from Cliff Ennico. Even though he's one of our sellers, we love him, but we're selling it cheaper over here. Go here. It's very frustrating. It's the biggest negative of selling on Amazon. When in doubt, sell on multiple channels. But keep track of your inventory so you can tell which platforms are performing. There are software programs and apps that do this. The 2 biggest are Seller Cloud and ChannelAdvisor.com. Go to their websites, and you'll see what their products are all about. Question number 4. So how do I get started? The good news is both eBay and Amazon have very good interactive videos that show you step-by-step how to set up their seller's account. I've given you the links here. The biggest tip I can give you is, especially on eBay, sell lots of inexpensive merchandise first so that you can build a positive feedback score. When you sell online, people send you compliments, they send you reviews, and you build up a feedback score. One of your first goals on eBay is to achieve a positive feedback score of 100 stars. 100 means that you've done 100 transactions and everything went okay. At that point, people start to have confidence in you. They know you're okay. They know that they're not going to get ripped off if they buy from you. But getting there can be kind of tricky. Let's face it. When you start out, your feedback score is 0. Who's going to buy from someone who has a 0 feedback? Well, the answer is if it's a $5 thing, some people will take a risk on that. They figure, hey, worst case, I'm only going to get cheated for $5, and I'll give this guy a black eye if he doesn't, fulfill me properly. If you're selling a $10,000 roll top desk or something, That's not a good idea to do with a low feedback score. Also, too, there's a good chance you'll make a mistake. You'll list it in the wrong way, and some guy will buy it for $5 or something, and you're going to have to sell it to them for $5, even though it's worth $10,000. I've actually known people in the early days of eBay who made those mistakes. You don't want to do that. Amazon, you have to make a choice between fulfillment by Amazon or fulfillment by merchandise. Fulfillment by Amazon means you collect the stuff, you ship it to them, and they do everything else from that point on. They warehouse it, they fulfill the orders, they handle returns, and you just get a check every month for your share of everything. Now, that sounds great. And especially if you're a hobby seller, if you're someone who's not really serious about this, you only want to make $20,000, $30,000 a year, FBA can be a wonderful way to sell because Amazon does all the work. But wink, wink, nod, nod, they're collecting a huge fee for that. If they're the ones that are doing all the back office stuff, they're going to charge you for that. If you're serious about building a business, you want to go with the other one, which is FBM, Fulfillment by Merchandise. This means you list the stuff on Amazon, they process the orders, but you do everything else. You warehouse it, you ship it, you deal with the returns, you deal with all that stuff. Why is that considered better? Answer, because if you're doing Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA, you do not know who your customers are. You trust that Amazon is selling to real people. They sell for you. They send you your income. They'll send you a statement every month saying, here's how many things sold. Here's by SKU. Here's how many of this SKU sold. This is how many of that SKU sold. But they don't tell you who the customers are. So there's no way for you to follow up with the customer and sell additional stuff. With FBM, you are in control. Amazon has to tell you who the customers are so you can follow up and sell other merchandise to those people. Okay, so key, very key. Make sure when you're selling on eBay, sell just cheap stuff until you get your feedback score up to the point where you can sell other stuff. Amazon, if you only want to be a hobby seller, do FBA. But if you're serious about building a brand and about building an online business, go with the FBM route because you have control over your customers. Okay. Best way to get started is to find a friend and to help you get started. And we'll talk about some people in a minute. Last but not least, what are the rules? Each platform has its own rules and regulations. Here are the links to the users' agreements for the big three, eBay, Amazon, and Etsy. There are a lot of ways you can be suspended or booted off the platform, even though you're doing something that is technically legal. As a famous Supreme Court justice once said, there is to say that something is legal is to say the least good thing about that something. So even though you're doing something that's legal, you might find yourself getting booted off of one of these platforms because you have violated one of their internal rules. You need to learn what the internal rules are. How can you be suspended? The most common way is by selling counterfeit merchandise. You got to know where your merchandise is coming from. If you're ordering stuff from China, you got to make sure that it's not bootleg merchandise. If eBay or Amazon gets wind of the fact that you are selling counterfeit merchandise, they will terminate you in a heartbeat, and it's a termination with prejudice. They will never let you back on the site again. You are charged with knowledge of knowing whether your stuff is genuine or not. Selling trademarked merchandise without authorization. This is a big issue on Amazon especially. If you are retail arbitraging, if you're buying stuff from Walmart and going and selling it on Amazon and making your living on the difference, technically it's okay to do that, but you're supposed to advertise it as used and secondhand merchandise, which very few people do. They say new in original packaging when in fact it really isn't new. If I buy a car and I drive a brand new car and I drive it off the lot, even though it only has 5 miles on the odometer, that is considered a used car, and I cannot list that as a new car. Technically, you cannot do that either. There are a number of ways. On eBay, they do not like you directing traffic to your website. Although there are ways to get around this, You cannot say, hey, I got great stuff on my website at cliffennico.com, check me out. That will get you booted off of the eBay site. There are other ways to do it where you can let people know that you can have you have a website. There's something called an About Me page that you should create where you can put a website URL, but you got to follow the rules here or else you will do. There are people who will help you get reinstated if you are suspended. These are the two big names. One is a lawyer named my good friend C.J. Rosenbaum. He's in Long Island, New York. Cynthia Stein is not a lawyer, but she has a service that basically deals only with reinstating people on Amazon who've been suspended, and her services are very, very good. So I refer you to both of those people. Okay? Legal and tax issues when selling online. Is this a business or is this a hobby? It's okay if you're a hobby. It doesn't really matter if you're making money, whether it's a hobby or a business. The IRS wants you to pay tax on the income either way. It doesn't really matter. If you're making money, it doesn't matter whether you're a hobby or a business. Where the difference is very big is if you're losing money. If you're losing money and you're a business, you can deduct those losses as an ordinary and necessary business expense. If you are a hobby, you can only deduct them against income from the same hobby. And that generally isn't worth a whole heck of a lot. Always make sure whenever you're selling online, even though you're only selling online, you still have to register in sales tax. If you're in Connecticut, this is the link where you register. You have to register for sales tax with your state tax authority. Whenever you sell something online and you sell to someone in the same state you are required to collect and pay sales tax on that. Watch out for sales taxes in other states. There was a big Supreme Court case last year called the Wayfair case. If you find yourself selling large amounts of stuff to somebody in a particular state, you may have to register for sales or income tax in that state. And last but not least, if you're selling internationally, watch out for this new GDPR. This is a new privacy rule that the EU has adopted to help to basically, and it's contrary to United States law. If you're selling stuff on eBay and you get an email from someone from Italy asking questions about the merchandise, you now are subject to the European Union's jurisdiction, and you have to comply with their privacy laws. Okay, I'm going to finish with this slide. I have a lot more slides to go, but unfortunately we were slow getting started. Buy a couple of books to get started. I have a couple of them, which I'll tell you in a minute. Watch some YouTube videos. There are lots of YouTube videos for people who are getting started on eBay and Amazon, and that's a good place to go for videos. And some of the stuff is actually legal to sell that they're talking about. Join a meetup group. If you look at some of the slides that follow where I am right now, you probably won't be able to get to them in the next 10 minutes. But I actually have to get to some of the meetup groups in the New York City metropolitan area. There are also directories of eBay and Amazon sellers, and these people will actually take time out of their busy lives and for nothing will help you get started. It's probably the best way to get started. Join a meetup group and let these people show you the ins and outs of technically how you set up the accounts, how you input the SKUs, and how you do all that stuff. And then attend a trade show for online sellers. There are trade shows around the country of eBay, and there's a very big one. It's usually in October of every year called Ecom Chicago. You'll see that in the slides. I give you all the URLs for this. And it's probably a great way to meet some other sellers, some other people who are just doing the same things that you are doing, but also a lot of people who are doing them at a much higher level. It's a great way to become a part of this community is my advice, because as much advice as somebody like me can give you, you're much better off networking with other sellers who are not technically competitors, but who are facing a lot of the same issues that you are. So without any further ado, I am going to put these slides up for just a second. We're going to go to Q&A, but I'm going to put these slides up for just a second. Again, send me an email. I will send you copies of all the slides. These are resources for eBay sellers. These are resources for Amazon sellers. These are for Etsy and Shopify sellers. These are some of the big resources that are out there. This is a listing of trade shows. There's the website. There's the URL for Ecom Chicago. Best part, they are tax deductible. Here are my key takeaway points. You can sell on MegaRetail sites, but you give away a large percentage of your profits. Again, remember the octopus. Your goal is to direct traffic to your website where you keep 100% of the profits. Number two, Amazon competes with you. Most other sites do not. If you're selling on Amazon, you've got to face up to the likelihood that Amazon's going to start selling their own stuff, version of what you are doing, and you're going to be in competition with them. Sell what sells, not necessarily what you love. Sell what works, sell what you know. If you are building a business on Amazon, if you're serious about making more than $20,000, $30,000 a year, go with the Fulfillment by Merchant program, not Fulfillment by Amazon. I'm sorry, Fulfillment by Amazon is good if you only want to make $20,000, $30,000 a year. You don't want to be bothered with a basement full of crap. FBA is the way to go. But if you're serious about building a business, FBM is the way to go because it gives you control of your customers. You can build a customer database with FBM, which you cannot do with FBA. Retail arbitrage will not build your brand. It's a good way to get started. It's a great way to learn the ropes and make a few mistakes. But ultimately, if you really want to build a business on Amazon or eBay, you've got to specialize in niche merchandise with high margins and minimal competition. Basically, you're going to become an agent for local manufacturers that are looking to build online distribution platforms. That's ultimately how you're going to make your big money selling on eBay and Amazon. This is how the eBay and Amazon millionaires got to be that way. Know the rules of each mega site. Avoid suspension at all costs. Make sure you register for sales tax. If you're selling online, make sure you register for sales tax in the state where you are located. If you're Connecticut, this is where you go. This is the online form that you fill out. And then last but not least, network with other platform sellers. Make it your point to attend at least one trade show a year because that's where you're going to meet the high-end sellers who have made all the mistakes, who have built successful businesses, and who can be your mentors in selling successfully on MegaRetail. These are two of my best-selling books. The eBay Sellers Tax and Legal Answer book is obviously that's specific to eBay, but I basically answer every question that I have ever been asked on the legal and tax issues involved in selling on eBay. I also have an eBay Business Answer book, which is specifically 500 FAQs, the most common questions that I have been asked about selling on eBay. And last but not least, this is me. One last thing, make a note of my email address. I know I went through some of the slides very quickly. We got a late start. But if you send me an email, I will respond promptly, and I will send you copies of these slides so you will have all the URLs that I just flashed through. So with that, I will turn the floor back to Steve.
Cliff, thank you very much. Excellent job in all regards, actually, content and reacting to the time. Well done. Just a couple quick questions here. We do have a couple of minutes. One, just a housekeeping thing. Jolene sent a note a little while ago actually saying that back on one of your earlier slides you had the same email address for Cynthia and CJ. I'm sure that's not correct.
That was not correct. The CJ Rosenbaum was correct. Cynthia Steins is something different. I'll make sure to correct it on the version that I send it to people. But her website is egrowthpartners.com, if you can remember that, egrowthpartners.com.
All right, great. But while we're on her subject, she also had a question on, do you have any special advice for people who are selling online for a non-profit 501(c), for example, organization?
Okay. The answer is yes. There's a website called Mission Fish, missionfish.com. This is an organization that certifies 501(c)(3) organizations for eBay, Amazon, and other online sellers. A lot of people don't know this, but you can actually ask eBay sellers to donate a portion of their proceeds to your charity if you are a bona fide 501(c)(3) organization. But to do that, you have to be listed with Mission Fish. So my advice would be get listed with Mission Fish and then make sure you tout that when you sell merchandise online.
Okay, good answer. Reba has asked this question, which is also a really good question. How do you direct traffic to your website if you can't do this in your listing? Really technical, what language do you use?
Okay. This is a bigger issue for eBay than it is for Amazon. Amazon, if you're doing FBM, fulfillment by merchandise, will let you put a website URL in there. They don't care as much because they're not making as much money. But eBay cares about this very much. There are a couple of tricks. There is something called an About Me page that you can set up on eBay where if you can talk a little bit about your business, you can put photos. If you're brick and mortar, you can do stuff like that. And you are allowed to put a website URL in the About Me page. Always, always, always create an About Me page when you're selling on eBay. Make sure your URL appears there. Sophisticated eBay sellers will know to look for you there. The other trick is when you choose your user ID on eBay, make sure to use your website URL but without the .com. So if your website is cliffennico.com, make sure Cliff Ennico is your user ID. Because a lot of people are savvy enough to know, hey, I'm seeing a lot of great stuff here. His user ID is Cliff Ennico. Gee, I wonder if he's cliffennico.com. Let me see. Let me check. Yep, there he is. It's a great trick. You cannot use .com as part of an eBay user ID, but you can put everything but the .com in there and hope that most people will be savvy enough to know that that's your website URL. So Flibberty Gibbet Antiques is almost certain to be flibbertygibbetAntiques.com. This is why your website URL is so important. Picking it carefully because you're going to be using that for your user ID, your Amazon seller ID, and all your other online IDs.
Great, Cliff. I'm going to close it off here now. We're right at the top of the hour, and just want to say thanks very much to Cliff for being here today with us, and also thanks to all of you out there and for the very good questions. I just also want to remind you that we do our next webinar is July 9th, 7 Biggest Mistakes Small Businesses Make with Belinda Wasser, that is, and you're going to be receiving a couple of additional requests on or notifications on that. Let me also remind you back to, if you look at our final slide there, Cliff, if you could just pop on that final slide. Good. If you one-on-one mentoring is really our core, and you can sign up for a mentor on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, and we do that at our offices here in Norwalk on East Avenue. So, listen, thanks for Cliff for presenting, everybody out there for attending. Remember to visit our website, and everybody have a very nice day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.